Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'll be explaining you about admixtures and we'll see what's the definition of admixtures, and in this video we'll cover very clearly about various types of chemical admixtures and how do they affect the properties of fresh concrete, as well as what is the application of such type of admixtures we shall see. So coming to definition of admixture, generally admixture, the word itself it is telling something which is added to the mixture. So admixtures or an admixture can be defined technically as that substance or that material other than water, cement and aggregates, which are the basic raw materials used for manufacturing concrete. So other than those materials, if you add some other material, then that's called as a admixture, right? So these admixtures can be added immediately before or during the mixture. So before, that's called as admixture. You have additives. Additives are those materials which are added during the time of manufacture itself. Like gypsum could be an example of an additive. Why? Because it is added during the manufacture of cement itself. But once you are adding some material to make the concrete at the time of mixing or just immediate before mixing, then it's called as a admixture. So admixtures are of two types. We have chemical and mineral admixtures. So in this video we shall cover about all the sort of chemical admixtures. In the next video we'll learn about mineral admixtures in detail. Coming to chemical admixtures. So what's the reason or what's the purpose of using a chemical admixture in your concrete? It's not only chemical admixture, but basically what is the use of adding an admixture? To reduce the cost of concrete construction, say suppose you are using some mineral admixture, you are replacing your cement with those mineral admixtures. Yes, you are reducing the cost of construction. You're using any recycled material, any agricultural waste, any industrial waste, then you are reducing the cost of construction to achieve certain properties in concrete more effectively than others. So, irrespective to conventional concrete, if you want to improve any sort of, or if you want to enhance any property of concrete, any specific property of concrete, you can add an admixture to it. To maintain the quality of concrete during all stages, means in order to achieve workability for your concrete, in order to apply your concrete in adverse conditions like very hot weather conditions or very cold conditions, frost conditions. So under all sort of conditions your conventional concrete will not work out. So at that time you can add admixtures and you need to enhance the properties to overcome certain emergencies during concreting operations, like if you are pumping the concrete to very higher floors, if you want to pour concrete on a very larger reinforcement, at that time conventional concrete may not give us good results, or else only basic mix of cement, water and aggregates may not help us, so we need to add a admixture. So coming to important chemical admixtures, we have plasticizers, superplasticizers, retarders and retarding plasticizers. We have accelerators and accelerating plasticizers. We have air entraining admixtures. We have damp proofing and waterproofing admixtures. We have fungicidal, germicidal and insecticidal admixtures. So we have more number of classifications other than these also, but I consider them to be very much important and which can be used very regularly, so I'm covering this. In spite of these also there are so many, so you can just google out. So now we are covering what are those admixtures we generally use in our daily lives. So these are the around seven types of chemical admixtures we'll learn today. First one is plasticizers. Plasticizers are also known as water reducers. So generally plasticizers are used to achieve workability for your concrete. Already you know what is workability, right? Workability is the ease with which your concrete can be mixed, placed, or before placing, getting transported, placed, compacted and finished. So until all the concreting operations are completed, your concrete should not lose its workability. It should not use its properties. So that's called as a workable nature. So in order to achieve workability, people what generally do is they keep on adding water. So more is the water content, they feel more is the workability. But once you are increasing the water content, what is happening? The mobility of the concrete is increasing but not the workability. So there is a chance that good number of chances are there that your concrete starts bleeding, and there is segregation between the aggregates and the cement paste, so which is not good. That's the reason, in order to maintain the same homogeneity of the concrete but you want to increase the workability, then you can use a plasticizer. So we reduce the water content and we add plasticizer, so the fluidity is obtained as well as the properties of the concrete are retained. That's how we generally use plasticizers. So basically, what are plasticizers made up of? So we have anionic surfactants like lignosulfates, derivatives of lignosulfates, salts of sulfonated hydrocarbons, etc. Also, non-ionic surfactants such as polyglycol esters, acid of hydroxylated carboxylic acids and their modifications, and even we have carbohydrate content also, etc. So most of the plasticizers are made up of um, sulfonated hydrocarbons and their derivatives, as well as carboxylic acids and their derivatives. So how much is the percentage of plasticizer to be used in concrete? So the dosage of plasticizer varies. It generally depends upon the company and also on the raw material, how it is manufactured. Just now I was telling, right, it's made up of two derivatives, two types of things. We have carboxylated acids and sulfonated hydrocarbons. So based on that, the dosage will vary, which will be already given by the manufacturer who is giving that to you or from whom you are buying it. So in general, the amount of dosage will vary from 0.1 to 0.4 percentage by weight of cement. So limitations: a good plasticizer is the one which does not cause air entrainment in concrete more than 1 or 2 percentage. So allowing of voids or allowing air to enter inside should be restricted. Then that's called as a good plasticizer. Around 1 to 2%. Even code specifies up to 2 percentage. Next, results and effects. At constant workability, the reduction in mixing water is expected to be of the order of 5 percentage to 15 percentage. So, to get a good workability, a plasticizer generally reduces water content up to 15 percentage of water reduction, or water content reduction can be achieved, and increases strength and increases the workability, and you can get a slump of 230 mm to 150 mm. These all are possible when you add a plasticizer. We can see where you can apply this plasticizer, as I've told you, where you require good degree of workability. So for thin walls, which are generally water retaining structures, you can add plasticizers. Deep beams, columns, beam junctions, tremie concreting, pumping of concrete, hot weather concreting. So under all such places you can use a plasticizer, especially in ready mix concrete also. Next we have super plasticizers. Super plasticizers are called high range water reducers. Plasticizers are called water reducers. Super plasticizers are called high range water reducers. Means you can imagine the percentage by which the water content can be reduced using a super plasticizer. We have already talked that a plasticizer can reduce your water content up to 15 percentage. Super plasticizer it will be double, so around 30% it can reduce. So, super plasticizers are improved version of plasticizers which were developed in Japan and Germany, and they are a little bit chemically different from the regular plasticizer, what we call. That's why they are so called high range water reducers. So they are basically made up of sulfonated melamine, formaldehyde, sulfonated naphthalene formaldehyde, modified lignosulfates, and etc. So the amount of dosage to be added in cement, again I have told you, it will be specified by the manufacturer. It will depend upon the derivative from which it is made up of. So if you are using a lignosulfonate based superplasticizer, you should not use it more than 0.25 percentage by weight of cement. If you are using a carboxylic acid, 0.1%. If you are using SMF, which is sulfonated melamine formaldehyde, 0.5 to 3 percentage dosage. If it is naphthalene formaldehyde condensate, you have to use around 3 percentage again. So all these specifications will be given by the manufacturer, and this will be based on by weight of cement. So what are the benefits of adding a super plasticizer? As I've told you, it helps in reduction of water content by 30 percentage. So just imagine if you are using, according to your mix design, if you are getting 100 liters of water, now you need not add 100 liters of water. Just add 70 liters of water and add 30 liters of super plasticizer. For example, I'm telling you. So like this, so if it's, sorry, 1000 liters, so you can add percentage. If you take the uh, multiply the percentage with the weight of the cement, or with the dosage, how much you are giving, you can reduce the water content. So you can achieve around 30 percentage of water reduction. It's just for a rough example I'm telling you, but again it depends upon your mix design and the cement content. Just for a rough example, for easy understanding, I'm telling you. So 70 liters only water can be added, 30 liters you can add the super plasticizer. So you are reducing the 30 liters of water, and thereby you are improving the workability. Okay, you're not reducing the workability, but you're improving the workability. And you can use lower water cement ratios. If you're designing concretes for lower water cement ratio, then for you can use super plasticizers. At that place you get very good strength. So generally super plasters are used when you have large amount of concrete to be placed. Means if there is a very large reinforcement, as you can see in the first diagram, when you have very big reinforcement, so you can use a super plastizer. Why? Because it's having good workability, so it can flow very easily. And you can also use superplasters in manufacturing of self-compacting concrete also. And you can also use superplasters in manufacture of high strength and high performances concrete. Next we have retarders. So retarders, as the name itself they are specifying, they are the admixtures which retard the setting time, which delay the setting time of cement or concrete. This is generally used when you have a huge amount of concreting to be done. So why? Because cement, normal conventional cement requires 30 minutes to lose its plasticity. So if you have more amount of concreting to be done, similar like your superplasticizer condition, and also when you have a very hot weather condition, immediately the water starts drying up and the workability is lost. So under such conditions, when you want to delay the setting time, when you want to actually delay the process of hydration, then you can use a retarder. So retarders will overcome the accelerating effect of very high temperature, as I've told you. So especially used in hot weather conditions, and it is also used when you have to transport concrete from very large places. So somewhere is your concrete manufacturing plant, and somewhere is your placing. So it takes time to transport. At that time, you can use a retarder so that the hydration won't happen very easily. So best retarders are gypsum and calcium sulfate. You already know gypsum. We are adding it in manufacturing of cement. We have explained there why, because to delay the setting time, I already told you, or to prolong the setting time. So gypsum is considered as one of the retarder. Also calcium sulfate, which is CaSO4. And other examples could be starches, cellulose products, sugars, acids, or salts of acids. Limitations: retarders should be used in proper amount. If you are using excess amount of retarder, your setting time will vary very badly. So again it becomes very difficult to get back. And yes, even we just now discussed that retarders are generally made up of sugar also. So if you can add the content of sugar based retarder up to 0.1 percentage, you may have a very little effect on hydration process. But if you are increasing the quantity up to 0.2 percentage by weight of cement, imagine the hydration would be very 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 delayed. It may take up to 72 hours to have the final set. So imagine for final setting of concrete, it is when you are using conventional or normal OPC is just 10 hours, 600 minutes. But now just imagine where is 10 hours and where is 72 hours. So it may take nearly 3 to 4 days of time. So very much delay will take place. So try to limit the, or try to concentrate on the percentage of addition. Next, yeah. So where are we using this retard? So you can use the retarders in concrete where you want to uh, pour the concrete, or cast the concrete in large number of pores without any joints, and also where, especially for grouting oil wells, where the temperature is around 200 degrees centigrade. So imagine at that time the hydration may be very quick, so at that time you can use a retarder. Next, coming to accelerators. Accelerators are just the opposite of retarders. If retarders are those which are delaying your setting time, then accelerators are those which are accelerating your setting time, which are initiating your hydration process very quickly. That's called as an accelerator. So they increase the rate of early strength development, so which helps us to remove the form work very easily, and also which helps us to reduce the curing period very easily, right? Even they can advance the time that a structure can be placed in service. Like if you have a concrete pavements, or if you have a concrete walls which you want to use immediately, at the time you can use the accelerator, so the hydration process completes very quickly than the stipulated time, and you can use the structure very quick. And also it compensates the retarding effect of low temperatures during cold weather concreting. So if you are as I've told you, retarders are used for hot weather concreting, so accelerators will be used for cold weather concreting. So when the temperature is low, cool, the hydration process may not be quick enough, so at that time you can use the accelerator. And also in any sort of repairing works you can use accelerators. So just they are the reverse of retarders function. So commonly we used accelerating materials are calcium chloride, some of the soluble carbonates, silicates, fluorosilicates, some of the organic compounds such as ethanolamine. Mostly this is chloride, but nowadays people are avoiding calcium chloride. Why? Because the chloride is again causing a disturbance to your reinforcement when concrete is used in rain as a part of reinforcement, like in RCC structures. So calcium chloride is nowadays a little bit avoided. So what's the benefit of using an accelerator? Just now I told you what benefits a retarder will give you, exactly the opposite the accelerator will give you. So they are very powerful, they make the cement set very faster in a matter of 5 minutes or less. So just imagine, where is 30 minutes, where is 5 minutes. And also availability of accelerators will help you in underwater concreting, they help you in repair works, early removal of formwork, waterfront structures like in hydraulic structures, very easy to work with. And also you can provide accelerators in concrete, which is used as a basement for waterproofing structures. Next we have air entraining admixture. The word itself it is telling this admixture will help air to enter inside air, it will entertain air to move inside. So it's one of the most important advancements in concrete technology because of this air entrained concrete AAR. So this was uh, done in the US and Canada. So they were using this type of concrete more. So it all this concrete is all named. Why? Because it's an air entraining admixture is added to it. So you add a very little amount of air entraining admixture or agent, or else you can use the air entraining cement also. So what this air entraining admixture does is it creates very small air bubbles. Just the size of the bubbles will be around 5 micron to 80 micron, and they will be distributed over the entire mass of the concrete. So these millions of air bubbles which are formed inside the concrete will try to modify your properties regarding workability, regarding segregation, regarding bleeding, regarding freezing and thawing. They provide the access for your concrete or scope for your concrete to expand or to contract. And also they modify the resistance of your concrete against frost action and permeability. So the following air entraining agents which could be used are like natural wood resins, animal and vegetable fats and oils such as olive oils, tallows, fatty acids, oleic acids, and also various type of wetting agents like alkali salts, sulfated and sulfonated organic compounds, water soluble soaps like our detergents, and resin acids, etc. Even you can use sodium salts of petroleum, sulfonic acids, hydrogen peroxide, something which can create bubbles, which can create gaps. That's all. So something like a detergent, our soap detergents, like they are also air entraining agents. So how is the air entraining agent or admixture affecting the concrete is, as I've told you, it gives you good resistance towards freezing and thawing. Why? Because the bubbles are there. There's a space for your concrete to expand, your concrete to contract. So no possibility of evolution of cracks. Obviously, workability is improved, but only disadvantage is that reduction in strength. And also it reduces, but again advantages on the other side. If you see, segregation chances are reduced, bleeding chances are reduced, permeability chances are reduced. uh, so only thing is that little lesser strength when you use other admixtures, and also resistance to chemical attacks, and permits reduction in sand content, improves placeability, early finishing, reduces cement content, heat of hydration is also reduced, unit weight of the structure is reduced, self weight of the structure is reduced, it permits reduction in water content, it reduces alkali aggregate reaction, it reduces modulus of velocity also. So when one simple point what we can, or one simple con or disadvantage what we can come out using our air and training admixture is that results in lower strengths when compared to the other admixtures. So lower strength, lower modulus of velocity, and so on. But other all properties are enhanced. So that's the reason you can use a combination of admixtures. So one single admixture is not sufficient. Just we can go for combinations. So next we have dam proofing or and waterproofing admixtures. So most important purpose of this admixture is to reduce the penetration of outside water into the concrete. So they make your concrete very much resistive against water absorption. That's called as waterproofing admixtures. So we have or we use yeah, so we have two most important conditions where the water or the sorry the concrete must be impervious, or the concrete should not allow water to come into it. Yes, we have two important conditions. The first condition is that when the concrete is subjected to water pressure from one side, so obviously the water will try to penetrate inside, so our concrete should be able to resist or withstand this first condition, which is pressure of water. Second is that the absorption of surface water by capillary action. If there is any rainfall, any precipitation, any frost action, so if the concrete surface is able to absorb due to capillary action, obviously again the water is penetrating inside the concrete. So water proofing admixtures will allow us to safeguard or will protect our concrete against these two conditions what I have mentioned. So even though when the water is when the concrete is subjected to pressure of water, the proofing admixture will do its action. Similarly, absorption also. So these two conditions will be made, or the concrete will be made more resistive towards these two conditions with the help of a waterproofing admixture. So waterproofing admixtures are generally available in powder form or paste form or liquid form. Something like a Dr. Fix-It what you use in your house construction, that's one of the waterproofing admixture, or what you call water repellent. So that will not allow the water to get penetrated inside the concrete, right? So chemically active pore filling materials like silicate of soda, aluminum zinc sulfate, and aluminum calcium chloride, they are used as waterproofing admixtures. And even you have chemically inactive filling material like chalk, fuller's earth, and talc also. So Dr. Fixit, what I think you have heard this word, this is one of the famous waterproofing admixture. So waterproofing admixtures will make your concrete resistive against two conditions, which is pressure of water, and also they prevent the absorption of water into the concrete by capillary action. So the amount of dosage to be used depends upon the type of admixture you are using. It will be specified by the manufacturer directly. Limitations is that you have to use the admixture only that there is no other chance that you have to use the admixture. Means for example, um, only for water, when your construction is very much prone to water effect or precipitation effect, you can use this admixture, and you can't use this admixture as a substitute for any other material. It serves no other purpose, okay? And also in no case can an admixture be expected to compensate for cracks or large voids. As I've told you very clearly, this admixture is only used for repelling the water. You can't use it as a substitute for other materials or bad design, any faulty design, or you can't use it for crack reduction or void reduction, nothing. It is only used for repelling the water. So this I have already explained you. So chemically active pore fillers, they accelerate the setting of concrete, and also they make the concrete more impervious in nature. They improve the workability, and they uh, help in making your concrete more denser, thereby making it more impervious. So as I've told you, water repelling materials like soda, potash soaps, calcium soaps, wax, fat, vegetable oils, etc. These all repel the water outside and thereby making the concrete impermeable in nature. Last comes is fungicidal, germicidal, and insecticidal admixture. I think once you hear this title itself, you'll understand this admixture is able to resist the effect of fungi, germs, and insects into your concrete. So certain materials may either be ground into the cement or added as an admixture, so as to make your concrete or cement resistive against the effects or the uh, disasters caused by this fungi or bacteria or germs or insects. So they help or they make your concrete more resistive to prevent the invasion of these insects or germs into your concrete. So examples of those admixtures could be like polyhalogenated phenols, dieldrin emulsion, copper compounds. So that's all is about chemical admixtures. So I hope you all understood the video. So sorry for the little disturbances in between, but I am sure that I'm clear. Thanks for watching.